Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Gugelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial. It's going to be a shorter episode today, but it is going to be our Cup Final preview. Now, the reason it's shorter is because the game starts in about 2 hours. So some of this information is going to be outdated, but we're going to do our best to give you a preview of the whole series and of Game 1 as well, which is free to watch. We should mention right off the top, free to watch on AHL.com. More details on CanucksArmy.com. We have a breakdown of how to access it, how to go watch it. So make sure you watch it. Game 1, you can stream it for free. Abbotsford Canucks, Charlotte Checkers. It is sure to be a good one. Chat's pretty quiet early, but let's see if this gets them going. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Harm, this is going to be an interesting series. Similar to the one against the Texas Stars in the last round, this is a series where the Abbotsford Canucks have not seen their opponent. And that's an interesting dynamic to talk about because we talked about it with Phil DiGiuseppe last round. We talked about it with Max Sasson earlier this week when he was on the show. I believe he was on Monday. And it's Tuesday, excuse me. It's an interesting thing that there's teams that are facing each other that have never faced each other this season, and now they're meeting in the final. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's similar to what I said before, where it puts an extra emphasis on coaching on the fly, making adjustments, whether it's related to matchups or tactics. You've got to be flexible. And sometimes a playoff series can sort of be like a chess match where, let's in the regular season, you're a team that on the breakout loves stretching the ice. Your forwards flee the zone and you don't have your defensive get the puck out as much. You're just sending those long bomb passes. In the regular season, if you have one sort of go-to tactic in that vein, teams aren't going to rigorously be able to pre-scout that and take it away. Yeah, it might be something they know, but it's not going to be something that, like, you only play them once, so you can't really find the perfect counter for it. Whereas in a playoff series, that's something that you can really zero in on and create a counter strategy because you know you're going to play this team potentially up to 7 times in this matchup. And so if something like that is taken away from you, then it's a sort of cat and mouse game where, all right, they've taken your plan A. What's your plan B for breakouts? And that applies to so many different aspects of the game. So yeah, I think it puts an extra emphasis on coaching, on tactics, on adjusting, line blender. But I also think with Manny Malhotra, he strikes me as the type of coach that would excel in those types of areas.
Charlotte's made quick work of their recent opponents. They swept the Hershey Bears in round 3. They swept Laval, who was one of the best teams in the league, in round 4. And now they face the Abbotsford Canucks. It is going to be a good series. But yeah, like I said, they have made very, very quick work of their opponents. They had 2 losses to the Providence Bruins. That was the most interesting series because, again, that was a best of 5. So that was the most interesting one they've had, but they haven't really faced much adversity lately. Here to help us break it down a bit more, Tyson Cole, who's been covering it the whole time. He is brought to you by our friends at Pacific Toyota Dealers, who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes knowing you're driving a Toyota. And if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Tyson Cole joins us now. He is the associate editor at CanucksArmy.com. He has been covering the Abbotsford Canucks for a while, during this playoff run especially. Tyson, I want to start there. What's been your biggest takeaway, I guess, from this playoff run so far?
Well, thanks for having me, guys, first and foremost, but probably just the way the team is actually able to feed off the energy of the crowd, just being at the games, how invested they are, chanting Artie for everything, every big hit. Like the players really get juvenilized from that. And yeah, it's it's been exciting to watch. It's been a good series so far.
When you look at the series against Charlotte, what does Abbotsford need to do to close it out against another elite team?
Well, so I did a deep dive on Charlotte, and they're really defensive. They got a really good defensive structure. I believe they were fourth in goals against in the regular season, and that's carried over to the playoffs. I believe they're the only team at a sub 2 goals against per game. So it's just finding offense because they're going to be able to shut you down in multiple different ways. So if they're able to get more offensive contribute, I can't think right now.
Contributions.
Contributions. Geez, there we go. Contributions from like the depth in the lineup rather than kind of leaning on Linus Karlsson and Archie Baines, how they've been carrying last series. So just more depth scoring, I would say, is probably how they're going to be able to beat Charlotte.
What have you seen from Charlotte so far in these playoffs? Like we just said it, they've been making quick work of their opponents. Like, what's their attack plan?
I haven't watched too much of Charlotte, but just it was so impressive the way that they were able to get through the Eastern Conference Finals because Laval was the best team in the regular season, as you already alluded to. So it's going to be scary, but they're off for 10 days. That's a long time without playing hockey, especially in the playoffs. Like that's a big break. So I kind of expect them to come out a little rusty. And Abbotsford, this entire postseason run has been kind of quiet in the first period. They kind of let the opponents come to them, and then they kind of attack in the second and third. So when you have a team this rusty, being able to attack right away is probably the way that they're going to, get the early advantage. Hopefully that they can do that tonight.
We've talked a lot about Victor Mancini. He's really impressed in this playoff run. What have you seen from him, and what's your confidence level that he could win an NHL job and be a full-time defenseman for the Vancouver Canucks in the fall?
Well, I kind of have a different stance on that because I thought he was fantastic the first 3 series, but in Texas, he kind of slowed down. Like when you watched him in those first 3 rounds, he was taking the puck up the ice like no problem, dancing through the defenders, breaking into the offensive zone. And I wouldn't necessarily say he was bad against Texas. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but he wasn't doing those flashy plays. I would still say that I'm pretty confident. Like when he looks good, he's on. But again, this is the AHL level, right? Like he was a teetering kind of NHL defenseman when he was up in Vancouver. But hopefully this just builds him his confidence, and he will be able to take that next step in Vancouver next year.
Archer Shilovs, he's been their MVP this playoffs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, easily.
Okay, so how big is he going to be in this series? Because like he always seems to rise to the occasion, but this is a big occasion. How big is Archer Shilovs going to be?
Well, I think he just feeds off the pressure. Like when he came in to Vancouver last year, like nobody believed in him, third string goalie, and then he took them as far as they did. So, and even now, like his record in the first 3 rounds when it was an elimination game, like just shutout after shutout after shutout, was just so impressive. So this is going to be undoubtedly his biggest task, I think, but offensively, it maybe not. Like Texas was very high flying offensive team, but Charlotte kind of does it by committee. I looked at they've dressed 23 skaters, and 13 of them are averaging over a half point per game so far this playoff. So it's not like, okay, you can shut down this one kind of top power play unit, that top line. You kind of have to always be on the game, especially when their depth is coming up. So it's going to be a big series for Silovs, but he hasn't given us any reason to doubt him yet. So why would we?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to also just ask about this series. Okay. Like, is Jonathan Lekkerimäki going to get into a game in your mind? And also, I also wanted to ask, as someone who's watched all the Abbotsford games, like how bad was he in these playoffs that it constituted him just being taken out of the lineup and Danilo Klimovich slotting in his spot?
I'll answer the first one. I think we will see him in this series because Abbotsford isn't going to sweep. I think the first time Abbotsford loses, Manny will make a change and put Lekkerimäki back in. But I don't think he's playing tonight. Why would you mess with a winning lineup? And to answer your other question, how bad was he? He was unnoticeable. Like in the regular season, he averaged 3.4 shots per game. He's a volume shooter. That's how he gets all of his success. That's how he builds his confidence to play well if he's shooting a ton. but he wasn't shooting at all. He had 1 shot per game in the Texas series. And when I went there, I was tracking his shot attempts because I wanted to see, okay, like maybe his shot volume isn't there, or sorry, maybe his shots on goal aren't there, but maybe his volume is there. Not at all. Like, I think the most I ever tracked was 4 shot attempts in a game. Like, you got to shoot more. And I don't know, I'm not a power play specialist or anything, but maybe part of the reason was he plays the off wing on the power play. So like they used to have him kind of set up in that, on the half wall there, loading up for a one-timer in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he was kind of playing the opposite side on the point. So how can you necessarily utilize his shot if it's on the wrong side? I'm not sure. I'm not a coach or anything, but yeah, they should roster the best lineup starting for the Calder Cup, and I don't think Lekkerimaki deserves to be in it.
When you look at the need for him to generate more shots, if he does get back into the lineup, and just that overall issue, is that more he needs to be more decisive and just be more trigger happy, or is it more a case of he isn't getting enough puck touches in quality shooting areas?
I think it's that one. Like he's not finding the open areas as well as he used to before. Like, and also it seems like he's a little timid with the puck. Like it doesn't seem like he's confident enough to carry it too much. Maybe that's lack of size. Maybe, physicality in the playoffs just goes way up. So he doesn't want to get run over, but I don't know. It's his positioning's been off, and especially on the power play there, like I mentioned, but even in the offensive zone, like he's not moving into the open areas to be able to get into his shooting area. So that's probably what I would say. That's why his production kind of slowed down.
Anything else you wanted to mention, Tyson? Just anything at all? I always try to leave this for the guys who are coming in and talking about Abbotsford. Is there anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to say before you?
I got some notes here. I got some notes.
Well, fire away.
The power play for Charlotte. I mean, we saw how good the Abbotsford penalty kill was the first 3 rounds. They kind of got exposed last series, but they should be able to get back on track. Charlotte's power play was the 5th ranked power play in the regular season, but now they're 2nd worst. They're only clicking at a 7%. So hopefully if they can continue to keep that Charlotte power play that's struggling already down, that should be a good thing. But when they do get power play opportunities, Abbotsford's got to play defensive, because Charlotte has 6 shorthanded goals so far this postseason, which is double more than any other team. And they allowed 2 shorties last year against Texas. So make sure you kind of hem it down on the power play there. One guy I just wanted to mention, Ty Mueller. I don't know if you guys have noticed anything from him or watched him, but Ty Mueller has been, outside of Artur Silovs, probably the guy I'm most impressed with so far. Manny trusts him in every single situation. Whenever there's a big face-off, he sends Ty Mueller out there to go win it, to kill the game, top line power play, penalty kill, everything. Like, it's always Ty Mueller out there, and he's not that flashy offensive skilled guy that's going to rack up a ton of points. But I asked Manny actually after a game when Ty Mueller was doing well, I was like, do you kind of see a little bit of yourself in him? Like, because you're kind of trusting him in all the situations you were trusted in as a player. And he kind of smirked and said, oh no, he's his own player. But I could kind of tell that Manny did see that. So just watch for Ty Mueller, because I've been impressed with him a lot.
I love that. Yeah,
he's such a smart player, right? He's a little bit small, and he's not the fastest guy, but just the way that he sees the ice, how responsible he is, gives me a little bit of Pius Suter vibes. Not saying they're directly comparable, but just that reliable two-way, all situations, versatile kind of centerman. I wanted to ask you about Abbotsford's physicality. That's something that's really stood out to me when I watched him play, watching guys like Sammy Blais crashing on the forecheck, Jujar Kara, even on the back end, Jet Wu, Tristan Nielsen. Abbotsford throws some heavy checks, and we've spent a lot of time focusing on some of their offensive contributors, how well they play defensively, their goaltending, the PK. How key is that aggressive physicality to their DNA, and how do you think it's contributed potentially to their playoff success to this point?
Well, you mentioned him, Sammy Blais. He's a wrecking ball out there, and I noticed that in game 1 against Texas, Texas was kind of scared to go into the corners because Sammy Blais was coming. Like they knew what the physical force he was. But you're right. It's not just Sammy Blais. It's throughout the entire lineup. And that kind of instills fear in them. And that they're so physical on the forecheck that they win a lot of battles because of it. And then you're set up in the offensive zone. So I definitely think that it's been a huge contribution to why, see, I got that word right, why they've gone so far and done so well.
All right. Tyson, this is your Canucks Convo debut. We appreciate you taking the time. We'll probably have you back later on during the series. Hopefully it's a long series.
Hopefully. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Love it. Tyson Cole, the associate editor of CanucksArmy.com and someone who's covering the Abbotsford Canucks all playoffs long. You hosting Rinkwide at all, Tyson?
Yeah, I got to leave in 15 minutes.
Oh, you're hosting tonight. Excellent.
Yep.
Are you with Jeff?
Yep, me and Jeff. Stay tuned.
Look at that. Make sure you check out Tyson on Rinkwide. Tyson, thanks for doing this.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
There he is, Tyson Cole. Check him out on Rinkwide after the game tonight. All right, I want to get to our poll question, but before we do that, I want to tell everybody about our friends over at the Vancouver Whitecaps, all right, who are unbeaten in 11 straight MLS games with a win against Seattle on Sunday. The 11 straight is a club record. Caps are top in the West and in the league as well. They head back on the road this weekend where they're unbeaten. Kickoff in Columbus is Saturday at 4:30 p.m. The Caps then come back home to host San Diego FC for the very first time on Wednesday, June 25th. Kickoff for that one is at 7:30 p.m. For tickets, visit whitecapsfc.com/tickets.
Welcome to Vancouver and to BC Place, the home of Jesper Sorensen's Vancouver Whitecaps FC.
Brian White leaps up, Sebastian Peralta!
All right, time now for a poll question brought to you by our friends over at Greta, which by now you know is a great spot to watch the big game. There was a big game last night that we're going to talk about later in the show, but did you know it's an even better spot for your upcoming party or event? If you need a venue for a team building or summer social event, check out Greta. They've got the street food menu, they've got the arcade game, and of course they've got the bar as well. It's always a fun time with plenty of options. Make Greta your spot for your next event. For more info and to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right, I'm throwing this out there. If you're on podcast, reach out to me on Twitter, get a hold of me somehow. If you're in the chat, respond now. Our regular listeners and our regular watch party attenders, would you be interested in an Abbotsford Canucks watch party at Greta? I have no clue if this is possible, but I think we can make it happen. And if there's enough interest, I will go to gretabar.com and book our event. I'll do what I've been reading about, book our event, and let's get an Abbotsford watch party. I think that would be fun. Sub poll question: would you be interested in an Abbey Canucks watch party? And we'll see what the overall interest in that is, and we're going to see what the interest in the Calder Cup final is as well, because our poll question today is, with the game being free to stream, will you be watching game 1 of the Calder Cup final tonight? 68% of voters say yes, 32% say no. Harmon, can I go out on a limb and say you and I are both in the yes category here?
Of course. Plus, if we do have that event at Greta, just to piss off quads, we're starting a "We Want the Cup" chant.
Okay, I thought about this more. I'm glad you brought this up again. Because I had a few people reach out to me and just say, like, no, you shouldn't have backed down. And I was like, you know what? In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have. But it became too much me, like, talking bad about the fans, which is not something I do. And I didn't want to make it come across as that. But I'm sorry. We Want the Cup is synonymous with the Stanley Cup. You don't go to the FedEx Cup and chant "We Want the Cup." Like, no, it's the Stanley Cup. It is synonymous with the Stanley Cup. And it might be less embarrassing if Vancouver had won a Stanley Cup before, but as we know, that isn't the case. So I stand by it. I don't like that. I think it's embarrassing chanting "We Want the Cup" when it's about the Stanley Cup. That chant is about the Stanley Cup.
Don't bring logic into this. That's the thing. If you're attending a live sports event, and I'm normally not a huge vibes guy, right? I've got an analytical mind, but when I go to sporting events, I turn my brain off. And if I'm at a Warriors game, for example, Vancouver Warriors, if there's a call that goes against Vancouver, I don't care if it was a legit call or not. I'm going to boo like everybody else. And if there are ref you suck chants, I'm going to participate just because it's fun. Something went against your team.
Sure.
You just turn off your brain
Sure.
and within reason have fun. And I don't think we want the cup chant. Yeah, it's synonymous with the Stanley Cup primarily, but this is also Calder Cup is a cup too. And this is exciting times. I don't care. Let the fans in the building have fun.
That's fair. Jacob in our private chat said, "I'd love to see Harm doing a ref you suck chant." I would also love to see that. And you brought it up that you shut off your brain at sports events. I do the same even when I'm in the press box, which is how we get some of my takes, I think. But no, I don't know, man. I really think it is a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to continue down this road. I'm going to back down again because I don't want to make it come across like I'm like trying to say anything bad about the fans, because I get it. You turn your brain off. You're having a good time at a sporting event. I just think that chant is synonymous with the Stanley Cup. And like I said, you don't do it at the Gold Cup final or whatever. You don't chant "We want the cup." That's a Stanley Cup tradition. Unless I'm wrong.
All right. Give us another chant then.
Okay. Do we hear "We want the cup"? This is the silver bullet. Okay. Is there "We want the cup" chants in Charlotte? Are there "We want"?
I don't go to games in Charlotte.
I'm not saying you would know the answer. I'm saying this will help inform our opinions. If Abbotsford and Vancouver are the only AHL team that's doing the "We want the cup" chant, then it's embarrassing. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Jacob has something to add to this.
So I was doing a little bit of Googling research here. Mm-hmm. And I found a photo from a soccer match. I don't know where it is, but the fans have a big "We want the cup" sign in the crowd of the soccer match. So I understand your point of being like this is a Stanley Cup thing.
Sorry.
It's not only a Stanley Cup thing.
Was that in Europe, Jacob?
This was in North America, if I'm looking at it closely.
No, it wasn't.
This looks like Philadelphia Union in MLS.
Okay, that's embarrassing too.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Why? Okay, so
for the MLS.
Has Stanley Cup is the only cup the Stanley Cup? No, it's not.
No, it's not. But in Vancouver, you get what I'm saying. In Vancouver, the only time anybody's chanting "We want the cup" is for the Stanley Cup. The last time that was chanted in this province was for the Stanley Cup in 2011.
You're not invited to the parade when they win.
Oh, don't say that. Don't even joke about that.
You're not invited. I'm officially uninviting you.
I will say this. I actually do want to get a lot of and again, they have to win the series first, and we're not gonna. I'm just saying, with how much fun we've been having with Abby players, I think it would be so fun to go do a podcast from a parade or a celebration and have players just kind of rotate through and hop on the pod. I think that'd be so much fun, and we'll see. Abbotsford's been pretty game to do content with us, so we'll see. But I'm getting a little creative for the content we do for the parade. But I'm not going to start reaching out to the Canucks about that. Hey, when you guys inevitably win this series, can we chat? No, seriously, Charlotte's a very, very good opponent, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. But I am excited about the idea of them winning here. That'd be great. Okay, we get to go. Good to go for anyone else? We've got a lot to talk about. We don't have that much to talk about, but let's get to anyone else. Regardless, it is brought to you by our friends at the Vancouver Canadians. There's a nooner at the Nat right now, so if you're listening to this, it's too late. But there's one tomorrow, Blue Jays Day. The weekends with a White Spot Family Fun Sunday. Bring the kids and watch them run the bases. Post-game for tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Guppy in the chat said, "I think it shows how hungry we are to have the nerve to chant that." That's fair. Revenge of the Sixth, and Jacob, you can do this. He said, "Do a poll on how wrong Quads is." Okay, I'll say this. The YouTube chat really doesn't like this take, but and I react to what the YouTube chat says, but I had 3 people reach out to me after, podcast listeners, and say hey, "We want the cup" chant take is a good one. That's a silly chant to do for the Calder Cup. Rajcraft said this: "How many Pirate Pack bets are there going?" Actually, yeah, wouldn't we have gotten the conclusion of some of those bets? Like Calgary,
Didn't
we know we got push on Calgary. Wasn't there other ones this season, Jacob?
I don't remember what was official and what wasn't. That's the problem.
We had other things like the Donato getting at least $4 million in free agency, which
Oh,
he
that will
but
get
I
in a
don't think
couple
we
weeks,
officially
yeah.
bet Pyre Pack on it.
Okay. Hey, what's Pius Suter getting in free agency? Like there's a question that I think we should kind of dive into right now, because there was a report, I think it was from Elliot Friedman today, that the Canucks are uncomfortable going to the number that Pius Suter is likely going to get in free agency. What number is that has the Canucks feeling uncomfortable? Because look, I think you agree with me now. I called it very, very early, but I think it's fair now that like a guy like Ryan Donato is going to get $4 million. What does Pius Suter get if Sam Bennett resigns in Florida, which looks like it could happen? Of course it could happen. What does Pius Suter get when Mitch Marner's off the board? It's the same conversation we've been having for a while now about the markets that are ahead here. What does Pius Suter get in free agency? I think that number might end up starting with a 5.
Maybe at the high end, 5 flat. Right now, I would assume around 4.5.
Yeah.
Maybe high, in the high 4s. That's kind of the range that you're looking at right now. And if you're the Canucks, that's too far to go, especially when you consider the cap situation they are in. And when we initially had a lot of the Pius Suter conversations, maybe closer to the trade deadline, we were sort of having this conversation of should the Canucks prioritize re-signing him? And I think at the time, I was sort of looking at, all right, if the number's 3.5 to 4, you do it if you're the Canucks. But now that we're in the offseason, first of all, 3.5 to 4, I don't think it gets an extension done anyway. But also, I didn't realize how little cap flexibility the Canucks have this summer, where after the Forbert re-signing, they're around $12-ish million. And when you consider their need for 2 top 6 forwards, committing $4+ million to Pius Suter would eat a substantial chunk of that. And especially since he's coming off a career year, I'm a lot more comfortable with the Canucks deciding to walk away from Pius Suter than I was, let's say, 2 or 3 months ago.
What should the Canucks walkaway number be for Pius Suter?
I don't think they should. I don't even think they should offer him $4 million, to be honest. And that's not so much because I don't think Pius Suter's worth that, but just because the Canucks need to aim higher. They need difference makers at the top lineup. They don't have enough of those, and you can find, I think, complementary guys to be part of your supporting cast. But the difference makers at the top of the lineup, that's the hardest thing to acquire, to bring into your roster. And to me, all the assets the Canucks have in terms of their cap space and their trade chips should be devoted to that push rather than, and this is a problem, right? I look at the Canucks current cap commitments up front. They already have a lot of money tied up into players that would not be top 6 forwards on contending teams.
Yep.
You've got $3 million to Nils Höglander, $3.25 million to Dakota Joshua, 2.5 to Drew O'Connor, nearly 4.5 to Philip Hedl. That's already a significant chunk of cap space to non-top 6 forwards. And I'm not saying that those are bad contracts in isolation, because a lot of those are actually pretty reasonable deals. But you look at the way a lot of contending teams are built, they're not spending a ton on sort of third line quality players, and the Canucks already have a lot of cap space committed to those guys.
Couple things on this. Aatu finished the season very strong. He's going to be in their plans. Again, needs waivers next year. He's going to be in the plans. Can he be a Pius Suter replacement? No, probably not right away, but maybe in two years, right? Rather than signing Pius Suter for 4 years, can you make the bet that Aatu might be at that level and he might be on a cheaper contract at that point? There's a lot of different variables to it, but one thing I wanted to say about Suter was it's been suggested that, oh, well, they'll just go find the next Pius Suter. And let's not forget, Pius Suter signed in late August to a 2-year deal at $1.5 million. That was a bargain at the time. And obviously he played up to that contract and well beyond it this past season. The one thing I'll say, that's not impossible that they'll go find the next Pius Suter, but it's a lot easier to find the next Pius Suter, i.e. the guy left without a seat at the table when the lights go out, Again, I mixed up a couple metaphors there, but you understand what I'm saying. It's easier to find that guy when the cap isn't going up. Teams have a lot of money to spend right now, and the chances of a guy like Pius Suter, not current day Pius Suter of 2 years ago, being left without a seat at a table is probably significantly lower, given that the cap's going up and given that teams have so much to spend. Is it impossible? No, but the odds of it happening where the Canucks strike gold like that, that is significantly lower.
Yeah, especially when the free agent market is pretty weak and the number of teams that are trying to improve. It's going to be tough to find those bargains, but that's where, if you're the Canucks, you're banking on down the middle, Pettersson bouncing back, finding a 2C on the trade market, and then Filipino in the 3C spot. You're pretty set there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Who's going to be the biggest overpayment in free agency this year? I want to look at the UFA class before I answer this. UFAs, Puckpedia. I mean, some people might say Sam Bennett. Do you think it's crazy to give Sam Bennett $10 million? I know a lot of other shows are discussing this right now, like national shows.
10, yes. And
because he's a 60-point player, except for in the playoffs.
Well, not even 60 points. He's only hit 50 points once in the regular season. That was this year. His career high is 51 points.
Okay, alternative question: does he get?
And it's not because
free agency?
I don't think he'll quite get 10. The issue there too, it isn't so much you're paying him 10 million. It's if you're the type of team that is paying him 10 million, that probably means you don't have true stars and you're relying on Bennett to, let's say, be the second best forward on your team. Whereas part of why I think he's so effective in Florida is that he's playing behind Barkov, that he gets to play with Matthew Tkachuk, that there is also Sam Reinhart. He's the fourth best offensive option on that team. Now, he's probably Florida wins, going to win the Conn Smythe. He's been their best forward in these playoffs. But part of that is because he has Barkov taking on the tough matchups against McDavid, sort of freeing him up, and all the attention on I shouldn't say all the attention on Barkov, but when he's taking all those tough minutes, and then there's also opponents got to worry about Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe and Matthew Tkachuk. There's less of a pure spotlight on Bennett, and it's a really good fit and environment for him to be the best version of himself. Whereas if he goes to a non-playoff team that can afford to pay him $10 million, all of a sudden, if you're leaning on him to be your 1C or to be your second or third best player, he's less sheltered. He's going to have less help around him. That's when you can really run into trouble. And I don't doubt that Bennett is one of those players that legitimately levels up in the playoffs, but you've got to be a team that can also get to the playoffs in the first place for you to really reap the rewards of playoff Bennett.
So who gets the biggest overpay? I don't know if it's Sam Bennett because you just said it. Like, you know, you're going to get rewards for playoffs. I'm talking like, well, let's make it clear. We're thinking this might be another 2016 where teams had a lot of money to pay. Milan Lucic got overpaid. Louis Eriksson got overpaid. Kyle Okposo got overpaid. David Backes. Those were four awful, awful contracts that got handed out on July 1st in similar circumstances to the one we're going at right now. I think we can exclude Mitch Marner from this conversation. Guy's going to put up 100 points when he signs with Utah. Just looking down the list, like Mikael Granlund is probably going to get an overpayment, but I don't know if it's going to be long-term enough for you to say like, oh, huge overpay. It might be Sam Bennett. Like it might be Sam Bennett. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Brock Besser.
I mean, Besser's next deal might not age well.
It might not age well, but you're not going to get a fall off in production the way that you did with those four guys that I just said.
Likely not, but the more I've thought about it, the idea of paying Brock, let's say $8.5 million for 7 years is a little scary, especially if you don't have the right fit for him as far as a centerman that he actually meshes with. And the injuries, now there's a chance he ages well in the Tyler Toffoli vein as another scorer that isn't the most fleet of foot, but paying Brock 8.5 scary bet to me. Mikael Granlund potentially coming off a 66-point season, but 33 years old. The term would be the real killer there, and that's what always stands out with these contracts that don't age well. Is sometimes it's not the AAV, it's a term that really kills you, especially for the older free agents, and usually it's the middle class tier of players that Detroit's a good example, right? Because Detroit's been signing these bad contracts even in the flat cap era where free agents weren't commanding a ton, like the Andrew Kopps, Comfer in year 2 in this past year. Yeah, I didn't live up to that deal. Tarasenko, Justin Hall. It's that middle class tier of guys. So I almost feel like you'd have to keep scrolling down.
Kuzmenko. What does Kuzmenko get on July 1?
No, I don't think his stock is high enough, even after how well he played in LA, to really command something significant. But yeah, I'd be looking at, I haven't had a chance to really dive deep into specific names, but I'd be looking at kind of the middle class tier. A Brian Dumoulin, right? 33 years old. He's coming off a good second half run with New Jersey. But before that, he'd sort of been a third pair defenseman, especially if you give Dumoulin term. That's the kind of contract that might not age well.
All right. What did I have on UFAs? I wanted to say this one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Free agency. There's a real chance that Pius Suter is like the top free agent center available by like, what time's free agency going to start for us? Probably like 9 a.m. We'll start to see this. That's when the signing period opens, right? 9 a.m. There's a good
9
chance.
Eastern, is it not? So 6 a.m. Pacific, if I'm not mistaken.
Isn't it noon Eastern, Jacob?
I'll double check.
Okay. I do know I start work very early on free agency. Like I wake up at 6 because tweets start coming out. But it's similar to trade deadline. But I think the official signing period opens at 9 a.m. Pacific, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
what I'm
yes,
about
you're
to
right.
tell you,
Yep.
if there's a real chance, I'm going to tell you, if we keep a free agents list board or whatever, by 10 a.m. Pacific, there's a chance that Pius Suter is the number one center available in free agency.
It's possible.
Realistic chance.
It's
very
possible.
Realistic chance.
Bennett could very easily decide to re-sign in Florida. Tavares likely going back to Toronto.
Like before free agency even starts. And that's not even considering the Mitch Marner signing, which is going to come down at 8:50 a.m. because miraculously, hearing these guys are talking contract or hearing that they're going to work something out, even though they're not supposed to talk till 9 a.m. Like that's going to happen. He's going to be like the first guy off the board, and that's going to happen early, I would think. And then when does Pius Suter get taken? I think if Pius Suter contract comes down, he's the top free agent by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, 30 minutes into free agency. Pius Suter is the hottest commodity on the free agent center market.
Yeah. Granlund could surpass him though.
Okay, now do you buy this
board.
idea? Do you buy this idea that the Dallas Stars want to re-sign Mikael Granlund and that he might just do it before? Because that's also what I'm considering, is that there's word out of Dallas that he is going to sign and stay in Dallas, and you would assume that happens before July 1.
I could see it being an appealing fit for him because they've got so many Finns, but the question I have is with what cap space? Unless they trade Jason Robertson. Like the problem is they've also got to get Ben done, who I assume he'll take he's 35 now, so he's eligible for a performance bonus laden deal. So I expect him to sign like it wouldn't shock me if it's like 1 million base AAV with certain performance bonuses that then can don't affect the cap this coming season. But they've also presumably are going to try to get Duchesne done. I guess in this scenario, they'd have to let Duchesne go. I don't think they can keep both Duchesne and Granlund realistically. Plus, they've got to find a way to get off of Dumba. Maybe that's a buyout. Maybe that's a trade. Probably have to trade Marchman as well. They're going to have to move a lot of pieces around. I'm sure they are motivated to get Granlund done because he fit in well there. But they have the worst cap crunch of any team in the NHL right now.
it's bleak. It's bleak for Dallas. Do you like Mason Marchment for the Canucks?
He's fine. I mean, he's a bigger body that can score. Doesn't drive play on his own. He's a second line winger is how I view him. So if you can get him for relatively close to free as a sort of cap dump for 1 year at 4.5, sure. But he can't. This is what I mentioned before. You'd ideally want to aim higher than Marchment because he is a good player, but we're talking about a guy that is more a 50-ish point producer. Realistically, especially if he's away from Dallas, where he had an opportunity to play with Matt Duchene, who can really drive a line as a playmaker on his own. The Canucks, as of now, don't have that kind of centerman. So Marchment, he wouldn't be the worst sort of fallback plan, but I view him as a sort of plan D or E kind of option rather than, they should prioritize going after him. If the Canucks had more cap space, if they had, let's say, $20 million of room, then I'd be like, oh yeah, right away, go and get him for, it's not going to cost you a lot, presumably. But they only have limited cap available, and I don't know if I'd want to sort of proactively commit 4.5 of that to Marchment if there are other potentially higher upside options out there.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to get to before we close out anyone else? I did want to talk about this game last night. I thought that series was over. It is alive and well. My Stuart Skinner bet hit of him making under 26 saves or whatever it was, and then the Oilers come alive. And I think the big question out of this game, and for those that missed it, we'll just quickly recap. Oilers go down 3-0 in the first period. Then they score the next goals. They come back. They push this game to overtime at 4-4. They scored 4 unanswered heading into the third. Sam Reinhart ties it up at 4. They go to overtime, and that is where Leon Draisaitl scored. And also, we should mention Sam Reinhart scoring with moments to play in the in the third. So some real dramatics in this game, but Leon Draisaitl ends it. Like, the dude's just so impressive. He should have won the Hart. Yesterday it was announced that Connor Hellebuyck won the Hart. I had Hellebuyck second on my ballot. I really think Leon Draisaitl should have won the Hart. You look at what that Oilers team would be without Draisaitl, I think they'd be okay. But you look at what the Jets would be without Connor Hellebuyck, I think they'd be all right. Like, I think they'd be even better. Not better than the Jets with Hellebuyck, but like I think Draisaitl is more valuable to the Oilers than Hellebuyck is to the Jets.
Well, the key, I also voted Draisaitl for the Hart. The key also is he did it playing with like Podkolzin for most of the season. And McDavid wasn't quite McDavid this year.
Absolutely. Exactly.
He was playing through a couple of things. And if you look at Edmonton's 5-on-5 goal differential in Connor's 5-on-5 minutes, it wasn't, last I checked, that dominant. I'm gonna try pulling it up now. Let's see if I can swing it.
Well, while you do that, I did also want to mention 2-point night for Vasily Podkolzin. Dude scores a goal. Guy look like, and this is the thing. That's the thing I like about Podkolzin. You will never hear anyone from the Canucks. You can't find a source in the Canucks organization that would ever say a bad thing about Vasily Podkolzin. Everybody loves Vasily Podkolzin, including us. Friend of the show. We really, really like Vasily Podkolzin. He was a good dude. He worked super hard. The guy always was in the gym. Like, the guy worked so hard to forge out an NHL career for himself. And the fact he's finding some success in Edmonton, I don't even look at it like classic Canucks, blah, blah, blah. They tried to make it work. What do you have? 3 coaches in Vancouver? They tried to make it work. And ultimately, he's just a good bottom middle 6 winger, which is what he could have been in Vancouver as well. So I don't know, man. I don't look at it in any sort of negative light that Vasily Podkolzin's having some success. I was ecstatic to see him score the goal and then, of course, get the assist on the overtime winner as well.
Yeah, so McDavid in the regular season plus 12 goal differential. Now, part of that is because Nugent Hopkins had a poor regular season and Nuge spent so much time playing with McDavid. But the point being, it wasn't that dominant at the top of the lineup. And for long stretches, it was Leon. especially his two-way metrics were elite, which hasn't always been the case. And that brings me to a huge storyline for me anyway in this series is that the Oilers are tied despite them being outscored during McDavid's 5-on-5 minutes in this series. They've been outscored 4-2. If you told me that, hey, 4 games into this Stanley Cup final, the Oilers are going to be down 4-2 with McDavid on the ice, and they're still tied 2-2, I mean, maybe I would have believed it because their depth has been sort of better throughout the first 3 rounds anyway. But I would have figured, oh, it's a 3-1 Florida series lead more realistically. For them to be in this position is impressive. Now, McDavid still put up his points on the power play. He still looked dangerous at times, but it's not that he single-handedly put them on his back. He's only got 1 5-on-5 point in the series total. And so you look at some of the other names that have stepped up. Podkolzin's got 3 5-on-5 points in this series. Kapanen's got 3 5-on-5 points in this series. Darnell Nurse and Jake Wallman last night coming through clutch. Victor Arvidsson's got a goal and an assist at 5-on-5 as well. So McDavid and Draisaitl, they're still doing, and Draisaitl especially, is still doing damage, but they've been able to compensate for McDavid being a little bit quieter at 5-on-5 because Barkov's been doing a great job head-to-head against him through other depth contributors, both up front and on the back end, chipping in.
Does Stuart Skinner play another game in this series?
Good question. I don't know. What would you do?
No. Pickard starts next game. If you lose, then it becomes a very interesting conversation. You start Pickard next game. Presumably you win. Like, I think the Oilers win the next game. That's going to be my Bet365 bet of the day. You start Pickard, you win. You start him again, you win the cup. That's how I do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because people know I'm not the biggest Stuart Skinner believer, but I'll be honest, I don't think that first period was on him at all. The Oilers were atrocious. The number of penalties that they took and the chances that they were surrendering, they deserved to be down 3-0. That wasn't a goalie's letting in shots that he shouldn't, and it should have.
They left him out to dry a bit.
Left him out to a bit completely.
Especially, he was good to start the game.
He was really good to start the game.
That's the thing. They were doing the exact same thing. They left him out to dry, and he came up with big saves.
They played way better in front of Pickard than they did in front of Skinner in that game.
And I think you have to take that into consideration.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I think the Oilers are the kind of team, regardless of whether Skinner or Pickard is in net, that how well do they defend? And how disciplined as far as not taking penalties. That's the other thing that should drive Oilers fans crazy is 4 games through this series, they've gone into penalty trouble in every single one of those first periods. That's got to stop. But anyway, the point I'm making, I don't have a hard take as far as how it handled the goaltending situation, because whether it's Skinner or Pickard in net, I think it's a case of if the Oilers defend the way they did in that first period of game 4 and during other pockets of, let's say, game 3, then it doesn't matter what goaltender you have in net, you're going to get lit up and you're going to lose the series. But if you can tidy things up, and through earlier stretches of the postseason, they've had moments where they've defended well, then whether it's Skinner or Pickard, they're going to give themselves a really good chance to win. So as much as the focus is on goaltending, to me, it should be on their defensive play, because the Oilers are Jekyll and Hyde sometimes with the defensive game. And I think part of the reason why is because when they're not giving up a lot of chances, oftentimes it's because they're dominating puck possession. It's not because they're the greatest in-zone defensive team away from the puck. It's simply because they are attacking so relentlessly that the other team is hanging on for dear life, that they can't even think about manufacturing offense and putting pressure on the Oilers. So I don't have a hard take on what they should do in net, but it's really going to come down to how composed can the Oilers be defending off the rush and preventing those cross-seam passes and not taking penalties, because their penalty kill is a liability.
Kevin K in the chat said, I think they follow Malhotra and start Skinner after a bad game. It's going to be interesting. I would start Pickard, and I think that's the route. they'll go.
I
as
kind of
well.
lean Skinner. I'm not gonna lie.
Jacob?
I think had they ended up losing that game in overtime, you go back to Skinner. But you just won a game. And Pickard came in, and I know he gave up that goal late, but there was a weird bounce, and he did almost get to it in a desperation save. Pickard was good coming in. He made every save that they needed him to. He made a couple big saves, and he was strong in overtime where there's a couple shifts in OT where it really looked like Florida was trying to take control of the game and win it. I think you go back to Pickard. He won that game for you. Run him until you lose.
Fair. How long of a leash is it though?
Well, I think it's the same. It would be the same leash that you had for Skinner, right? Like if there's a first period and you end up giving up 2 or 3 goals early in the first period, you yank them out. But the problem is like they're in a situation where they don't have another choice now. Like I remember there was a stretch of the season where Oilers fans were like, "Oh yeah, Skinner, Pickard, we're good in net. We don't need any other goaltending. This tandem can win a cup." Well, they might still win the cup, but man, it's just like this is such a big story and a big distraction because neither guy, I mean, we'll see what Pickard does here with this leash because like I said, he played well after coming in, but like neither guy really has looked like they're going to win you a Stanley Cup the way Bobrovsky has for Florida at times in this series.
True, but again, I don't mean to be the biggest Stuart Skinner defender in the world because again, I'm a noted non-believer, but do these playoffs, especially after he got pulled and Pickard started some games once, and then Pickard got banged up. When he came back at some point, I want to say in the Vegas series, he's been mostly good. And again, I think, yeah, do they need him to be a bit better than he's been in this Cup final so far? Yes, but I would put the primary blame on how egregious Edmonton's defensive breakdowns have been at times, and how undisciplined they've been, and how bad that penalty kill has been all playoffs. I think that's the primary issue rather than the goaltending right now. Yeah, you're at a disadvantage compared to Bobrovsky. I'm not going to deny that and say the goaltending on paper is even, but for me, especially when their offensive zone penalties, that's what should drive the Oilers nuts. Is you've got a PK that's been operating in the mid 60s efficiency wise. Stop taking stick and fraction penalties in the offensive zone, especially. And those are things you can control, right? The goaltending, you can't really do a lot about that right now, but your discipline, that's something you can control more than even your defensive play at 5-5.
Jacob, you just going to take that?
Well, no, I think Harm's absolutely correct. Edmonton.
I'm trying to put a wedge between you for Family Feud.
I feel like we're more aligned, if anything. It's just adding context and kind of completing the picture.
Yeah, and like it's not one of these situations where like they pulled Skinner last game. There was the one goal he gave up a big juicy rebound on. I forget which one it was, but like he did make some big saves. You pulled him because your team was down 3-0, couldn't stay out of the penalty box, and no one looked like they were given a bleep, right? You pulled him to send a message to the rest of the team. Harmon's right. Like if they want to win the series, they got to stop taking 5 penalties every first period. But I think that can still be paired with, well, we've seen Stuart Skinner play better than this. And, Pickard might be playing at his best level. Is that good enough? I don't know.
All right.
You know what? I should concede. When Jacob made the pitch for Pickard, and especially the way you win and throw and how do you go away from that? I think I'm changing my mind here. I would go Pickard, but with a short leash.
I like it. Good discussion, boys. Speaking of Family Feud and me driving a wedge between you guys, or trying to, I don't have the survey done, but I'm going to get it done. Jacob, you upload the podcast. I'm going to get this done so that it is in the description of the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube Live, I apologize, it's not done just yet, but we're going to get it out. It's going to be in this episode's description. I'm going to work on it right now and get it done.
Sounds good.
All right.
I mean, you'll have to turn around pretty quick. I get these podcasts out pretty efficiently.
I'm quick. Okay. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which I already talked about. We're taking the Oilers money line. The Oilers are going back home Saturday night. They've got all the momentum. Some people tell you game-to-game momentum doesn't exist in the playoffs. I would disagree. And I certainly disagree when it comes to this instance. I think the Oilers take it tomorrow night and take a 3-2 series lead, getting them 1 win away from the Stanley Cup. That is such a good series. It's such a good series, Harb. Like, how much overtime's been needed. The it got a little stupid. Let's not be wrong about that. Like, it did get stupid in that 6-1 Panthers win, but like what you saw last night is exactly what you want Stanley Cup playoff hockey to look like. I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good. The Oilers, here's the other thing. The fact the Oilers are somehow withstanding losing Zach Hyman, like, they missed Zach Hyman big time, but the fact that they're still withstanding, that's one of the most impressive things about this Oilers team right now.
Yeah, and they're fortunate that some of their players further down the lineup have found their form compared to, let's say, in the regular season when Nugent Hopkins barely cracked 50 points despite being stapled to McDavid all for most of his 5-on-5 minutes, and on the power play Arvidsson was ineffective for most of the regular season. Now getting contributions from Podkolzin, who played well in the regular season but playing large chunks of the year with Leon Draisaitl on the second line. I don't even think he hit the 30-point mark, if I'm not mistaken. Corey Perry is a massive one. He was decent in the regular season, but completely leveled up in the playoffs, especially how well he played in the first 3 rounds to help Edmonton get to this point in the first place. Connor Brown stepping up as well. They've had players that were worse versions of themselves in the regular season that are finding their form at the right time, and that's helping them by committee. Kapanen, another example. That's helping them by committee withstand the loss of Hyman.
So we're taking the Oilers to win this game. You can get them right now at -120. That is Oilers money line for tomorrow night's game. If you want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs, Bet365's got you covered. From game props, player props, totals, and the money line, bet on futures, Conn Smythe winners, Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. I wanted to read this last one before we close out. From Dan Jardine, this series has been great. A contrast of 2 very different styles played at elite levels. The best final I've seen in my 66 years on this planet. Hard to disagree with that. We'll close it out on that note. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Quadrelli. Have a great weekend, folks. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.